The wind roared across the empty plains of Lunara 9 as thick gray clouds covered the sky. The rain fell in long silver lines that sparkled when the lightning flashed above. Far in the distance stood a broken transport ship lying half buried in the mud. Around it were torn pieces of metal, scattered supplies, and silence. A lone human named Rian moved through the storm with careful steps. His coat was soaked and his boots sank into the wet soil, but he did not stop. In his arms, wrapped in a small silver blanket, lay a tiny child. Her breathing was soft and her pale skin shone faintly in the flashes of light. She was not a human child. Her skin had a gentle silver tone, and her small hands glowed slightly. Ryan had found her 3 days ago when his repair shuttle had passed over the crash site. He had not planned to stop. The world of Lunara 9 was known to be dangerous for humans, not because of wild creatures but because of the Zalari, the native species who ruled most of the planet. Humans and Zalari had fought many battles in the past, and peace between them was thin like glass. Still, when Ryan had seen the small figure moving near the wreckage, he could not leave her behind. He had landed and searched the wreck. Inside, he had found signs of a fight but no survivors. The little child had been alone, covered in dust and holding a broken pendant shaped like a star. Her large silver eyes had looked up at him without fear. She had been too weak to speak, so he had carried her to his shuttle and tried to help her breathe. For 3 days, Ryan had cared for her, keeping her warm and giving her water. She never cried, only looked at him with calm curiosity, as if she could see something in him that others could not. He had planned to return to the colony base, but he knew the humans there would never allow an alien child inside. To them, the Zalari were still enemies. He could not let them harm her, so he had turned his path toward the Zalari lands, a place surrounded by tall ridges and endless mist. Most humans called it forbidden ground, but Rian had made up his mind. The child belonged with her people. Even if it cost him his safety, he would take her back. The rain grew stronger as he reached the wide stone gate that marked the border between human land and Zalari territory. The gate was massive and carved with glowing lines that moved like slow rivers of light. Ryan stopped before it and shouted for help. His voice echoed through the storm, fading into the distance. For a while there was only wind and thunder. Then shapes appeared beyond the gate. 5 tall figures stepped out of the mist. Their bodies were covered in silver armor that shone in the rain. Their faces were calm but sharp, their eyes bright with a soft green glow. They carried long staffs that shimmered with quiet energy. The one in front spoke first. "Human, why do you stand before our gate?" Rian took a breath and lifted the child higher in his arms so they could see her face. "I found her near a wreck in the storm. She was alone. I came to return her to her people." The guards looked at one another. Their glowing eyes moved from Ryan to the small child in his arms. The leader stepped closer and studied the child's faint glow. His expression softened a little. "She is one of us. But how did she survive outside our lands?" Ryan shook his head. "I do not know. I only know she needed help." The guard nodded slowly. "Wait here." He turned and walked through the gate. The others stayed near Rian, their weapons lowered but ready. Ryan stood quietly, his body tired from walking through the storm. The child stirred in his arms and made a small sound. He held her closer and whispered, "It's all right. You'll be home soon." After some time, the gate opened wider. The first guard returned and motioned for Ryan to follow. "The Queen wishes to see you." Ryan stepped through the gate and entered a world of light. The rain faded as they passed through a barrier that separated the lands. Beyond it stretched a city unlike any human place he had ever seen. Tall towers of crystal reached toward the clouds. Glowing rivers ran through wide streets, and trees with silver leaves swayed gently in the wind. The air felt alive with quiet energy. Everywhere, Zalari citizens stopped to stare at the human walking among them. Their eyes were filled with curiosity and surprise. No human had ever entered their capital city before. The guards led Rian to a grand hall made of white stone and soft blue light. At the far end of the hall stood Queen Sira, ruler of the Zalari. She was tall and graceful, her long hair like liquid silver. Her eyes glowed faintly with the same green light as her people, but deeper and calmer. Her presence filled the room with quiet strength. The guards bowed before her. "My queen, this human crossed the stormlands to return one of our young." Queen Sira stepped forward. Her gaze fell on the child in Ryan's arms. Her face softened, and for a brief moment the cold silence of the hall broke. She spoke in a gentle but commanding voice. "Give her to me." Ryan walked forward and placed the child carefully into her arms. The Queen looked down at the child and then back at him. You carried her through the storm. Why? Ryan answered simply. Because she was alone. Because someone had to. The Queen studied him quietly. You knew what might happen to you if you entered our land. Humans and Zalari have not walked together for many seasons. You risked your life. I know, Ryan said. But she is just a child. She did not cause the wars. She only needed help. The Queen's eyes softened again. Around them, her guards exchanged uncertain glances. No one had expected a human to speak with such calm courage. Queen Sira looked at him for a long moment. Then she spoke softly, almost to herself. Perhaps peace begins with one act of care. She turned to her guards. Prepare a chamber for him. He will stay until I decide what must be done. The guards nodded and led Ryan away. He followed them through glowing corridors until they reached a small but comfortable room. The walls were made of clear stone that let in gentle light from outside. Ryan sat down on the edge of the bed and let out a long breath. He was safe for now. Hours passed. Outside, the rain faded and the light of the 2 moons shone over the city. Ryan could not sleep. He looked out the window and saw the towers glowing softly in the night. He thought about the child and hoped she was safe in the care of her people. Far above, in the royal chamber, Queen Sira stood by the window of her own room. The small child now slept peacefully under warm light. The Queen looked at her and then at the pendant the child had held. It was marked with an old family symbol, one that belonged to the royal line. She understood now that the child was not just one of her kind. She was a princess, lost in the chaos of a transport accident. Queen Sira's mind returned to the image of the human standing before her. His eyes had been calm, his voice steady, his steps heavy with exhaustion yet full of quiet strength. He had crossed miles of dangerous ground for a child that was not his own kind. No soldier or ally had ever done such a thing for her people. When her advisor entered the room and bowed, she asked, "What do we know of this man?" The advisor replied, "His name is Ryan. He works as a repair technician in the human colonies. Records show he was once part of the outer rescue teams during the early peace years. He has no family. He lives alone." The Queen looked at the sleeping child again. He has done what many of my kind would not have dared. See that he is treated with respect. He must remain here under protection until I decide his fate. The advisor nodded and left. As the Queen turned back to the window, she felt a strange thought forming in her heart. For years she had seen humans as the cause of endless loss, but tonight one human had changed that image. He had carried hope across the stormlands in the form of a child's life. Down in his chamber, Ryan sat quietly, unaware that his actions had already begun to shift the thoughts of an entire people. He only knew that he had done what felt right. The storm outside had passed, but a new one was beginning, not one of violence, but of change. And far in the still air of the night, Queen Sira whispered softly to herself, "The human who endured the storm may have brought more than a child to my gates. He may have brought a reason to believe again." The morning light spread across the crystal city of the Zalari. The towers reflected the golden rays of the twin suns, filling the streets with soft warmth. Birds with shining wings flew above the rivers of light that ran through the city. Inside the royal palace, a quiet calm filled the halls as servants began their daily work. Ryan woke early in his guest chamber. He looked around and saw a tray of food placed near the door. It was not human food, but it smelled fresh and sweet. There were slices of fruit that glowed faintly, a cup of clear blue water, and soft bread made from shining grains. His stomach was empty, so he sat down and ate slowly. The taste was strange but gentle, and it made him feel strong again. When he finished, a sound came from the door. A young Zalari woman entered. She had bright green eyes and short silver hair. She bowed lightly and spoke in a kind voice. "Good morning, Ryan. I am Lyra, servant to Queen Sira. She asked me to see if you are well." Ryan nodded politely. "Thank you. I am fine. How is the child?" Lyra smiled. "She is safe." The Queen watched over her through the night. "The child's name is Elan. She is the daughter of the late princess who was lost during the storm accident. Because of you, she is alive." Ryan felt a wave of relief. "I am glad she is safe. I only did what anyone should do." Lyra looked at him with curiosity. Not everyone would cross the Stormlands for one of our kind. Many of your people still fear us." Ryan sighed softly. "Fear comes from not knowing. Maybe one day it can change." Lyra nodded. "Perhaps it will. The Queen wishes to meet you again. Please follow me." Rian stood and followed her through the glowing corridors. The palace was full of soft music that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Everywhere he looked, he saw the art and craft of the Zalari people. Their world was full of color and calm, yet he could feel the weight of history in the air. The two races had shared long years of mistrust, and even here some eyes watched him with doubt. When they reached the throne hall, Queen Sira was already waiting. She stood near a large window that opened to the view of the city. The light surrounded her like a quiet crown. She turned as Ryan entered. "Good morning, Rian of the human colony," she said. Her voice was calm but strong. "You slept well, I hope." "Yes, Your Majesty," Ryan answered with a respectful bow. The Queen motioned for him to rise. "You saved a child of my blood. That is something no one can repay easily. But I want to understand your heart. What made you walk through storms for someone who is not of your kind?" Ryan looked out the window. "When I found her, she was small and hurt. She reached out to me and I could not turn away. I have seen too many people suffer because others were afraid to care. I could not let that happen again." Queen Sira studied him quietly. "You speak with honesty. Many of my people believe humans care only for themselves. Yet your actions show something different," Ryan replied softly. "Maybe the world would be better if both our kind stopped seeing only the past." The Queen smiled faintly. "You speak like a dreamer, but perhaps that is what we need." She turned to Lyra. "Prepare a guide for him. I want him to see our city. Let him walk among our people and learn who we are. Maybe they will learn something from him as well." Lyra bowed. "As you wish, my queen." Ryan thanked the Queen and followed Lyra once more. They walked through the grand streets of the Zalari capital. The city shimmered with gentle light that came from crystals placed along the roads. Children played near the glowing rivers, their laughter bright like bells. Shops sold delicate jewelry made of silver glass and fruits from far worlds. Everywhere, people stopped to look at the human among them. Some Zalari watched with open curiosity, while others turned away in cold silence. Ryan understood their feelings. The past between their species was full of pain. He did not blame them. Lyra spoke as they walked. "Our people remember the war years. Many lost family to human weapons. Even after peace, fear remains. But when they see what you did for the child, maybe their hearts will change." Rian nodded. "Change is slow, but it begins with one act." They stopped near a garden filled with silver flowers. The air was cool and carried a sweet scent. Ryan saw a group of young Zalari playing with small floating lights that moved like fireflies. When they saw him, they froze in place. One of them whispered, "Is he the human from the stories?" Lyra smiled at them. "Yes, he is the one who carried the princess through the storm." The children looked at Ryan with wide eyes. Then one brave boy walked closer and handed him a glowing flower. "For the Stormwalker," he said with a shy smile. Ryan took the flower gently. "Thank you," he said, and the boy ran back to his friends with excitement. Lyra watched the scene with warmth. "You have made a friend already." Ryan smiled softly. Maybe friendship is not so hard after all. Later that day, Ryan and Lyra returned to the palace. The Queen waited for them in the garden hall. The child Elin sat near her, playing with crystal toys that sparkled in the sunlight. When she saw Ryan, she ran to him with a bright smile. She spoke in her soft Zalari voice. "You came back." Rian knelt beside her. "Of course I did. You look strong today." Elin nodded proudly. "The healers say I am well now. The Queen says I am safe because of you." Queen Sira stood nearby, watching the moment. There was quiet admiration in her eyes. She saw how gently Ryan spoke to the child, how patient and calm he was. Few adults treated children, even their own, with such care. The Queen stepped closer. Ryan, Elan has not spoken since she was found, until today. It seems she trusts you. Ryan looked at the child, surprised and touched. That makes me glad. She is brave. Ellen giggled softly and handed him a small crystal toy. You can keep this. It will remind you of me. He accepted it with a warm smile. Thank you, little one. I will keep it safe. Queen Sira watched the scene in silence. In her heart, something began to change. For many years, she had carried the burden of anger toward humans. They had taken her sister's life and nearly destroyed her world. Yet, this one man, this quiet worker from another land, had carried a piece of her future through a storm. He had shown kindness where others would have shown fear. That evening, the Queen invited Rian to dine with her in the royal hall. The table was long and covered with silver dishes. There were fruits that glowed with soft colors, bread baked with herbs, and drinks made from golden nectar. As they ate, the Queen asked about his life. Ryan told her about the small colony where he worked as a repair technician, fixing broken machines and transport ships. He told her about the long days, the silence of the outer worlds, and how humans had forgotten what peace truly meant. The Queen listened closely. It seems loneliness is something both our people understand, she said. Rian agreed. Loneliness can be heavy, but sometimes it teaches us what really matters. Their eyes met across the table. There was no fear or anger between them, only quiet respect. When the meal ended, the Queen stood and walked with him to the balcony. The night sky above the city glowed with 2 moons. Rivers of light flowed through the streets below like veins of silver. The Queen spoke softly. My people will need time to trust your kind, but I believe your presence here is a sign that change is possible. You have done something I never expected from a human. Rian looked at the glowing horizon. Maybe all it takes is one moment of choice. Queen Sira turned to him. You risked everything for one child. You could have left her, but you did not. I cannot forget that. Ryan bowed his head slightly. I only did what felt right. The Queen smiled gently. Sometimes what feels right is what shapes the future. As they stood together under the light of the moons, the Queen felt a new kind of peace inside her. For the first time in many years, she looked at a human not as an enemy, but as a person who carried a heart as strong as any Zalari. Rian, too, felt something he could not name. He had never stood beside a leader of another world, yet he felt no distance between them. Only quiet understanding. Below them, the city of Lunara 9 shone with beauty and life. Somewhere in the quiet night, a new chapter was beginning. One that neither Rian nor Queen Sira could yet see, but both could feel deep within. The next morning came with a soft golden glow over the city of the Zalari. The air was cool and clear, and the crystal towers caught the sunlight like mirrors of fire and light. Ryan stood on the balcony of his chamber, looking at the peaceful view. The sound of distant bells floated through the air as the city began to wake. He had been in the palace for 3 days now. Each day felt like a dream that he did not quite understand. He had saved a child and brought her home, yet he was treated like an honored guest. The Queen had spoken to him with kindness, and her people had begun to look at him with less fear. Still, deep inside, he knew this peace was fragile. A soft knock came at the door. When he opened it, Lyra stood there, holding a folded robe made of fine blue fabric. She smiled warmly. Good morning, Ryan. The Queen asks for your presence in the central garden. She wishes to walk with you. Ryan nodded and changed into the robe. It felt light as air and shone faintly in the sunlight. He followed Lyra through the palace halls until they reached the garden. The place was wide and bright, filled with silver trees and blue flowers. A stream ran through the center, carrying water that sparkled like liquid crystal. Queen Sira was already there, standing beside the stream. She wore a simple white gown and had no crown on her head. For a moment she looked less like a queen and more like a quiet soul lost in thought. When she saw Ryan, she smiled gently. Good morning, Ryan, she said. You walk early. I could not sleep much, he answered. Your city is so alive. It feels like it sings. The Queen nodded. Our world carries its own rhythm. When you listen closely, it reminds you that life continues even after sorrow. They began to walk slowly through the garden. The air smelled of fresh leaves and soft rain from the night before. The Queen spoke again. Elin asks for you every day. She says you promised to visit her again. Ryan smiled. I will gladly see her. She has a brave heart. Yes, said the Queen softly. She does. She will be strong one day. You have given her a second chance, and for that I am grateful. They stopped beside a tall tree with silver roots. The Queen looked at the light passing through its branches. Long ago, before the wars, our people and yours shared this world together. We traded knowledge and dreams, but fear grew faster than trust. I was young then, yet I still remember the day the skies burned with fire. Ryan listened quietly. The Queen continued. My sister, Elan's mother, believed in peace. She went to speak with human leaders when the war began. She never came back. Since then, I thought no human could act without selfishness, but you have made me question that belief. Ryan looked down at the clear water near his feet. Sometimes one action cannot erase a past, but it can open a new door. Maybe your sister's dream is still alive, even if she is gone. The Queen turned to him. Her eyes shone like calm stars. You speak with wisdom, Ryan. You remind me of what I wanted to believe once. They walked for a while without words. The sound of the stream filled the silence like a song. Later, Lyra came to call them. My Queen, the Council requests your presence. They wish to discuss the matter of the human guest. The Queen's calm expression changed slightly. She looked at Ryan. The Council has doubts. They fear that your presence will bring trouble. I must speak with them. Ryan bowed lightly. I understand. I will wait. Queen Sira nodded and followed Lyra out of the garden. Ryan stayed behind, looking at the glowing water and thinking about what might happen. He knew his arrival had broken many old walls. He also knew not everyone wanted those walls gone. Inside the Grand Council chamber, 12 members of the Zalari Council stood waiting. Their robes were dark blue, marked with silver lines of authority. The oldest among them, Aaron, spoke first. My Queen, we respect your judgment, but we cannot ignore the danger this human brings. History has taught us what they are capable of. Queen Sira met his gaze calmly. This one is not like the others. He risked his life to save a Zalari child. Another counselor stepped forward. Or he seeks to gain your trust for his own kind. Perhaps they plan to use him as a messenger for invasion. The Queen's eyes grew firm. You think I would not sense deceit? I have seen the truth in his actions. He carried our lost princess through the storm when his own people would have turned away. Does that sound like deceit to you? The room fell silent for a moment. Aaron sighed. You are our queen, and we will obey. But know this, the people still remember the wars. They will not forget easily. Keep watch, Majesty. Trust can be a fragile thread. The Queen nodded. I understand your fear, but fear must not rule us forever. If peace is to live, it must begin here. When the meeting ended, the Queen returned to the garden. Ryan still stood by the tree, waiting quietly. When he saw her, he straightened and asked, Was everything all right? The Queen gave a small smile. The Council is cautious, as expected. They fear what they do not know. But I will not allow fear to decide for me. Ryan nodded. I do not wish to bring trouble. If my being here causes division, I can leave once I know Elan is safe. The Queen looked at him with gentle strength. You are not a burden, Ryan. You are a bridge. Some may not see it yet, but one day they will. Just then, Elan ran into the garden, her laughter bright like sunlight. She carried a small glowing ball that floated above her hands. Ryan, come play, she said happily. Ryan smiled and crouched down to her level. All right, little one. Show me how it works. She tapped the glowing ball and it floated into the air, spinning slowly. Ryan reached for it, and she giggled as it dodged away. Queen Sira watched from a distance, her eyes filled with quiet warmth. It had been many years since she had seen such joy. The afternoon passed with laughter and calm voices. When Elan grew tired, she sat on Ryan's lap and closed her eyes. Ryan held her gently until she fell asleep. Queen Sira stepped closer. She trusts you more than anyone else. Even the healers say her strength grows faster when you are near. Ryan smiled softly. She gives me strength too. Maybe we both needed each other. The queen nodded. Perhaps you are right. That evening, the palace lights glowed brighter as the twin moons rose over the sky. The queen invited Ryan to walk with her once more, this time along the edge of the upper balcony. From there, the entire city stretched out below them like a sea of light. The queen spoke after a moment of silence. My people think strength means never bending, but you showed me another kind of strength, the strength to care even when you might lose. You endured storms and fear for a child who was not yours. Tell me, what gives you that courage? Ryan looked at the horizon. Maybe it is not courage. Maybe it is hope. I have seen too much loss to believe that kindness has no power. When we stop helping each other, we lose what makes us human. The queen thought about his words. Among my people, we believe the heart's light grows when shared. Perhaps that is what you carry, a light that reaches across the walls we built. She turned toward him. Her eyes were calm but full of meaning. I want you to stay here longer, Ryan, not as a prisoner or a stranger, but as a guest and friend to the crown. Ryan was surprised. Are you sure your people will accept that? They will in time, she said firmly. They must learn to see what I have seen. He bowed slightly. Then I will stay if I can help your people understand. The queen smiled. You already have. Days passed, and Ryan became part of the palace life. He helped the engineers repair the energy bridges that connected the towers. His skills as a repair worker impressed the Zalari builders, who admired his patience and creativity. Elan visited him every day, bringing small gifts of flowers or songs she learned from her tutors. Queen Sira often watched them from the balcony, her heart filling with a feeling she had not known in years. She saw in Ryan a quiet peace that balanced her own strength. His presence brought warmth to the cold corners of her life. One night, when the city lights dimmed and the stars shone bright above, the queen stood alone on the same balcony where she had first spoken with him. She thought of all that had happened since the storm, the child's rescue, the council's warnings, the slow change among her people. When Ryan came to join her, she did not turn right away. She simply said, Do you ever miss your world, Ryan? He thought for a moment. Sometimes, but I think home is not only a place. It can also be where you are needed. The queen looked at him then. And do you feel needed here? He met her gaze with calm honesty. Yes, I do. The queen smiled softly. Then perhaps you have found another home. The silence that followed was peaceful. Above them, the moons drifted closer, their light weaving silver across the sky. In that moment, neither queen nor human spoke of fear or duty. They only shared the quiet truth that two hearts from different worlds could understand each other. And somewhere deep within the palace, the child Elan slept, dreaming of a world where storms no longer separated hearts. The soft blue dawn rose over the crystal towers of Lunara 9. The sky shimmered like liquid glass, and gentle light filled the halls of the royal palace. Ryan awoke in his small chamber, the same room Queen Sira had given him when he was allowed to stay in the palace. The child he had saved slept peacefully beside him, her silver skin glowing softly in the morning light. He smiled when he saw her calm face. For the first time in many days, Ryan felt peace. Yet deep in his heart, he knew it would not last long. The Queen's Council had been speaking about him. Some of the Zalari did not trust humans. They said his kindness was only a trick. Others said it was fate that brought him here. Ryan did not know what the Queen herself believed. Later that morning, a young Zalari attendant came to his room. Her name was Tira, a quiet girl with gentle eyes. "The Queen wishes to see you," she said. Ryan nodded and followed her through the shining halls. The throne hall looked different in daylight. The walls glowed with sunlight that reflected from the crystal ceiling. Queen Sira sat on her high seat, calm and graceful as always. Her silver robes flowed around her like water. Rian bowed his head. Sira looked at him for a long time before speaking. "You have stayed among my people for many days, Ryan. You have helped the healers and taught them your ways of care. You have worked without rest. The child you saved grows stronger each day. My people speak of you. Some admire you, some fear you. I wish to hear your heart now. What do you seek?" Ryan thought before he answered. "I only wanted to help. When I saw the child in danger, I could not walk away. I never meant to bring trouble to your people." Sira's eyes softened slightly. "You speak truth, yet your presence has changed much here. My people begin to ask questions they never asked before. They wonder if humans in Zalari could ever share trust again. Perhaps that is not a bad thing." There was silence for a moment. The Queen then rose from her seat and walked closer to him. "Ryan, my heart is troubled. For many cycles I have ruled my world with clear laws. I believed that distance kept us safe. Yet, when I saw how you carried one of our young through storm and fear, I saw something no rule could explain. You stood where even my guards might have turned away. Tell me, why would you do that for one who was not of your kind?" Ryan looked up at her. His voice was calm and quiet. "Because kindness is not about kind or race. It is about what is right. She was small, alone, and needed someone. I could not forget that." The Queen's eyes glimmered with emotion she tried to hide. "Your words are simple, but they hold great weight." At that moment, a loud sound came from outside the hall. The great door opened, and 3 members of the High Council entered. They were tall and proud, wearing long white robes marked with silver lines. Their leader, Ilaran, bowed before the Queen. "Your Majesty," he said firmly, "we have discussed the matter of the human. His act of saving our young cannot be denied, but his presence among us brings unrest. Some of our people whisper that you favor him too much." Sira's calm voice replied, "Favor is not the question, Ilaran. Justice is," Ilaran continued. "Perhaps, but the Council must protect the unity of our kind. The old wounds between humans and Zalari run deep. If the people believe the Queen has forgotten them, their faith may fall." Sira's expression stayed calm, but Rian could feel the tension in the room. She turned toward the Council. "What would you have me do?" Ilaran hesitated before saying, "The human should be sent back to his colony. He has done his part and will be remembered with respect, but his stay here will only cause conflict." The words cut through the air like cold wind. Ryan stayed silent. He had expected this moment. Still, a part of him felt pain at the thought of leaving. Queen Sira stood tall. "And what of the child he saved?" "She trusts him. She barely sleeps when he is away." "She will adapt," Ilaran said softly. "Children always do." The Queen's eyes turned sharp, but she did not show anger. "I will decide," she said at last. "Leave us." The Council bowed and left the hall, their footsteps fading down the corridor. When they were gone, silence returned. Rian spoke quietly. "If it causes trouble, I will go. I never wanted to divide your people." Sira turned toward him slowly. "Do you wish to leave?" He looked down. "I do not know. This place feels strange and beautiful. I learned more here than in all my years in the colonies. Your people have hearts like crystal, strong and clear, but I cannot stay if it hurts them." The Queen walked closer until she stood only a few steps away. Her voice softened. "You carry a heart that sees beyond fear. That is rare even among my kind." She paused. "I have made my choice." Rian looked up. "Your choice?" "Yes," Sira said. "You will not be sent away. You will stay here under my protection. You have shown my people that courage has no race. They must learn this truth even if it takes time." Rian was silent for a moment, unsure how to respond. Finally, he bowed his head. "I will honor your trust, my Queen." Later that day, word spread through the city. The human would stay. Some Zalari were pleased. Others were not. But everyone spoke of him. They called him the storm bearer, the man who walked through wind and pain for a child not his own. As night fell, Ryan stood by the balcony of his chamber, watching the glowing rivers flow far below. The stars above Lunara 9 shimmered like silver dust. The child slept inside, safe and warm. Footsteps approached. He turned and saw Queen Sira standing at the doorway. She had left her crown behind. Her long hair floated freely in the soft night breeze. "I could not sleep," she said gently. The night feels heavy. Ryan nodded. Sometimes silence brings thoughts we try to hide. Sira smiled faintly. You speak like one of my scholars. I only speak what I feel, he replied. She stepped closer and stood beside him, looking out at the endless stars. When I was young, she said softly, I believed strength meant never bending, never trusting. But you have shown me that strength can also mean compassion. Rian looked at her with quiet respect. Sometimes compassion is harder than battle. They stood together in silence for a long time, listening to the hum of the crystal winds. The light of the stars touched their faces. In that moment, they were not queen and human. They were simply two souls who had seen the same storm and survived it together. When Sira finally spoke again, her voice was gentle. Tomorrow will bring more questions. But tonight I wanted to thank you. You may not see it, but you have changed more than you know. Rian shook his head. I only did what anyone should do. The queen's eyes met his. That is why it matters. She turned to leave, her silver robes flowing softly behind her. Before she walked away, she paused at the door. Good night, Ryan. Good night, my queen, he said quietly. When she was gone, Ryan stood alone beneath the glowing sky. The soft wind brushed against him, carrying the faint sound of distant music from the city below. He thought of how far he had come, from the empty plains of the colony to the heart of an alien palace. He did not know what the future would bring. But he felt something deep inside, a quiet connection that reached beyond worlds, beyond fear, beyond difference. It was the beginning of something neither of them could yet name. Far across the city, in her private chamber, Queen Sira stood by her window, gazing at the same stars. Her thoughts lingered on the man who had crossed storms for a child not his own. She did not understand why her heart felt lighter when she thought of him, but she did not try to deny it. The stars above Lunara 9 shone brighter that night, as if they too had seen the truth growing between them, a truth that would soon be tested in ways neither could imagine. The morning sun rose slowly over the crystal city of Lunara 9. The twin moons, still faintly visible in the sky, reflected their pale light on the glowing rivers that wound through the streets. The palace was quiet, save for the soft hum of energy that flowed through its walls. Ryan stood near the balcony, watching the city awaken. Children laughed in the streets below, and workers began their tasks with steady hands. The soft light of the day made everything shimmer with calm beauty. He felt a sense of belonging here, even though he had come from a world very different from this one. Inside, the child Elan slept peacefully. Ryan had spent the night beside her, making sure she was warm and safe. The small crystal toy she had given him from the first day still rested in his hand, glowing faintly. It reminded him of the journey he had taken, through storms, through fear, and into a place where trust and kindness could change everything. A gentle voice called his name. It was Queen Sira walking softly toward him. She wore a simple gown of silver and blue, and her eyes held calm warmth. Ryan, she said, the council has spoken again. They have seen the changes your presence brings. Slowly they begin to understand, Ryan nodded. I did not come here to teach or change anyone. I only came to save the child, Sira smiled. Sometimes saving one life changes more than we expect. You have given hope to a people who needed it most. They walked together through the palace halls toward the central garden. The morning air smelled of silver flowers and soft rain from the night before. Birds with shining wings sang quietly in the trees. Elan ran ahead, her laughter like a bright song. She carried a floating light, spinning it above her head. Ryan, she called, look, I made it dance. Ryan knelt and held out his hands. The light floated toward him, spinning gently. Elan giggled, running in circles around him. Queen Sira watched, her heart warming at the sight. You have done more than save her, she said softly. You have given her joy and trust. She will grow strong because of you. Ryan smiled. She already is strong. She just needed someone to see it. They continued walking through the garden, the soft light reflecting off the silver trees. Sira spoke again. Ryan, I must ask you something important. You have risked your life for her, and you have shown my people that humans can carry honor beyond words. Will you stay here with us? Not just for the child, but for all of us who need your example. Ryan thought for a moment. He had always lived a simple life in the outer colonies, repairing machines and helping those in need. He had never imagined that his actions could mean so much to another world. Yet when he looked at the child and at the queen, He felt the truth in her words. "I will stay," he said quietly, "if it helps your people and keeps the child safe." Queen Sira's eyes shone with gratitude. "Then you will be more than a visitor. You will be a bridge between our worlds." The days passed quickly after that. Ryan became part of the palace life, teaching the Zalari how to repair machinery and showing them ways humans solved problems with patience and care. He worked with the healers, helping them understand how to comfort and care for the young ones. Ilan grew stronger each day. Her laughter filled the palace halls and she began to speak more freely. She would run to Ryan in the morning and climb onto his shoulder as they walked through the palace gardens. Every day he marveled at her courage and her quick mind. Queen Sira often watched them from her balcony or from the garden. She saw how the child's joy reflected back on the human who had saved her. She also saw how her own people began to change. Some of the Zalari who had once whispered doubts now watched him with curiosity and quiet respect. Others still remained cautious, but even they could not ignore the impact of his kindness. One evening, as the twin moons rose high above the city, Queen Sira invited Rian to join her on the upper balcony. The palace was quiet, and the stars reflected in the glowing rivers below. "You have changed more than the child," she said softly. "You have changed me. I have carried anger for too long, thinking it kept us safe. But you have shown me another path." Ryan looked at her with respect. "It is not only my choice. It is yours to see it. You chose to let me help. You gave me the chance to show care and you trusted me." Sira smiled faintly. "I trusted my heart as well as the courage I saw in you. There are few humans who act without seeking reward. You are one of them." Rian shook his head gently. "I seek no reward, only to do what is right." They stood together in silence, watching the calm light of the moons. In that quiet, Rian realized something he had never known before. He had crossed worlds, faced fear, and endured storms for a child he barely knew. Yet in doing so, he had found purpose, trust, and a connection deeper than he had ever imagined. Queen Sira turned to him, her eyes reflecting the stars. "Ryan, I must ask one more thing. Will you stay with us, not as a guest, but as part of our people? Will you carry this bond forward? To teach our people what courage and kindness can truly mean?" Rian took a deep breath. He thought of the empty plains he had left behind, of the storms he had faced, of the child whose life had become intertwined with his own, and he looked at Queen Sira, who had offered him trust and respect unlike any he had ever known. "I will stay," he said firmly. "I will stay to help your people, to protect the child, and to honor what we have begun together." The Queen smiled warmly. "Then our worlds will never be the same, and perhaps in time they will grow closer because of you." Over the following weeks, the palace of Lunara 9 buzzed with quiet change. Ryan worked alongside the Zalari engineers, teaching them new methods and learning their ways in return. His presence encouraged the healers to show care in ways they had never imagined. Ilan grew confident. She would run through the halls, her laughter bright, and greet anyone who passed her way. Her bond with Rian became the talk of the palace. People began to understand that trust could cross worlds and that courage was not limited by race or species. The Queen watched it all with quiet pride. She saw how one act of courage could ripple outward, touching many hearts. She also saw something more personal. The human who had endured the storm had brought a warmth into her life that she could not deny. His calm courage, his gentle care, and his steady presence had begun to change her world. One evening after the child had gone to sleep, Rian and Sira walked through the palace gardens. The silver flowers glowed softly, and the light from the moons painted the paths in gentle blue. "You have done more than anyone could have expected," Sira said. "You have changed hearts without using words of power. You have shown my people what true courage is." Ryan smiled quietly. "I only acted when I had no choice but to help." "It is your people who are learning, not me." The Queen shook her head gently. "It is your actions that gave them a chance to see differently. Sometimes courage and kindness are louder than any command." Ryan nodded. "Then I'm glad to have helped." They walked in silence for a while, listening to the soft hum of the palace. Then Sira spoke again. "You have endured storms, danger, and fear for the sake of a child. That is a bond I cannot ignore. You have my respect and my protection, Ryan, and I believe my people will come to see the same truth." Rian looked at her, humbled by her words. "I never expected such honor. I only did what I had to do." Sira smiled faintly. "Then perhaps your world is teaching ours something we needed to learn. You are more than a visitor here, Rian. You are part of our hearts, and our future will be shaped by what you have done." For the first time, Rian felt fully at home. He had crossed worlds, faced fear, and endured storms for the sake of a child. And in doing so, he had found not only purpose but connection. He realized that the true reward was not recognition or praise, but the knowledge that his actions had sparked hope, trust, and the possibility of peace. As the moons glimmered above Lunara 9, Ryan knew his journey was far from over. Yet he also knew that with Queen Sira by his side, with Elon safe and growing strong, he had helped build a bridge between worlds that would last for generations. The palace hummed quietly with life. The city of Lunara 9 shone like a beacon of hope, and Rian, who had once walked alone through the storm, now walked among friends, allies, and a people who had learned to trust the heart beyond fear. The child he saved would grow in strength and confidence. Inspired by his example, the queen would rule with renewed hope, seeing that courage and kindness could shape the future. And he, Rian, would remain there, a living proof that humanity could endure, care, and inspire across worlds. In the soft light of twin moons and the gentle glow of the crystal towers, the story of a human who endured for the sake of a child became legend, a story of hope, courage, and the power of a single heart to change the world forever.